Welcome to the Metaphysical Journey. My name is Michael. Tonight I wanted to do a pick a group reading. So this would be selecting group one, group two, or group three. Now, as I go through these, what I would like for you to do is use your intuition on the cards because I don't go into the guidebook deeply at all. So I will tell you what I'm receiving from this, but look at the cards yourself and see what you receive. Because as we know in readings, one size does not fit all. So I believe that if you choose a particular group, there's a reason why you do that. And that means there is a message for you, whether it comes from me or whether you receive that yourself from the cards. So please pay close attention to the cards and see what you get. Each group will get two cards. The first card comes from the Path of Light Oracle by Anthony Salerno. And this is a deck that pulls from ancient Sanskrit scripture of the Hindu. It's the Bhagavad Gita. Now, scholars place its age somewhere between 500 to 200 BC, so it is definitely ancient. The second card will come from Celtic Magic by Marie Bruce, and this pulls on the history, the customs, culture, and wisdom of the Celts and the Druid priests that were the priests of the Celts. Now, how far the Celts go back, that's even more uncertain. Scholars place them back as far as 1200 BC because it really was a large collection of people that are more associated with the language families that they belong to. So they had cultural similarities, but it was a wide mix of people. And as I mentioned, anywhere from 1200 AD on. But the term Celt itself did not come into being until 1700. And so we don't know what they called themselves. But for any of you that have European heritage, more than likely the Celts are part of your family lineage. So that's a great thing to know. So group one, group two, or group three. Let's get started. If you chose group one, your first card is surrender. Now, the author on this card equates it most to surrendering the ego, to let go and let God, to give up part of your ego to say, I don't have to be right. It's not my way or no way at all. I have to stop this struggle that I'm in and just let it go, give it up to the divine creator and let them deal with it. That is a very hard thing for all of us to do because we get in these moments where we say, no, I have to have it my way. It has to be this way. And we spend so much energy on that, just strategizing how to make it work and to manipulate things because we don't want to feel like we have lost. So that's what the author has to say. I want to add to that because what I also pick up on this, it's the expression that I have used in many readings because this plays a key role in my life and how I look at things. And that's when I have to stop and ask myself the question, is this the hill I want to die on? Is it really worth it? And when I ask myself that, what I usually find is no, it's not worth it. Because when I dig deeper, I find that it is, like the author said, it is about my ego. I don't want to lose. Now, is your ego playing a role in what you might be going through? Well, it's pretty easy to figure that out, especially if somewhere in your mind you hear this expression or saying that goes something along the lines of, I will die and rot in hell before I dot, dot, dot. That is where we are digging in and we're holding on. The other thing that I want to say on this is that there are times that you have to let something go because it no longer matches how you feel. But you may have been bound to this for so long because it might be the old way of thinking. And now you've changed and you still have things that you're bringing along. They're like attachments and you're attached to them because you're so comfortable and familiar with them. And they are a part of who you were. And sometimes you have to let those go. Just surrender them up and say, remove those. I don't need them. Because as we do that, we also open up beautiful space for the new stuff to come in. So there's a time and a place for walking away and a time and a place for just setting it down and walking away from it. They're kind of the same thing, but there is a difference. There's also times when we have to walk away because we've been rejected by something, and that's not a bad thing. Rejection is many times protection. So that's surrender. The second card is lament. This is the Celtic magic card. And on this card, you'll see it's a beautiful image of a person with a bagpipe, and it's a nice kind of a smoky or a foggy background. I don't know if you've ever been to Scotland, but it is one of the most incredibly beautiful places ever. And on the tour of the Highlands that I was on, the day started out just like this. And I remember one place we stopped and there was a person standing off and playing the bagpipes. And it was the most beautiful, mournful thing I had ever heard. And it just melts your heart. And somewhere in that moment, I connected with my ancestors or something there because I could feel it just captured everything. And lament is a sad, mournful type of song or something that's done. And it's a way of the heart releasing that energy to say, I have to heal from this. And in order to heal, in order to truly surrender something, and when you do, you have to give yourself the time you need to accept that release, accept that surrender, allow yourself to heal. And it is a very mournful thing. You are going to experience every emotion you can possibly experience, but that is part of the journey and that is part of the process. Don't be afraid of that. Accept that, surrender all of that up and let it go. So when that moves out, after the amount of time it needs to do that, give yourself the time that you need. After that moves out, the sun comes back in and it's a bright and sunny day again, and you start on the next part of your path. So surrender and also take the time to lament. Lament what was there and what's passing on to something else. Bless it and allow it to move on. That was group number one. For group number two, I want to start by saying when I selected the decks for this reading tonight, I went with what I was led to. And when I pulled the two decks, I thought, how can they possibly go together? Your group, your reading shows how that works. And it's an amazingly beautiful thing. So your first card is Inner Freedom. Now, I want to refer to the guidebook on this one because it's a really great point that the author is making. She says, if you wish to be truly free from destructive habits, you need not only to abstain from such conduct, but also to rewire your desires and train yourself to aim for the things that will propel you forwards rather than the things that hold you back. What I pick up from this card when I look at it with Inner Freedom is this is definitely about finding that place inside where your power comes from, because you are a physical being, but inside of you is a very powerful light being. And this is about detaching from the outside and going within to embrace your power of who you are. You are not a person that's walking around powerless, a victim, a scapegoat, or having welcome tattooed on your back. You are someone to reckon with. You always have been in every life. You came from perfection. You came from power, and you are here in that state on the inside, even though most often it does not feel like it. And in the course of the day, you can find yourself really just beaten down by everything around you. And that may be what you're feeling right now, a feeling like, do I matter? Yes, you do. Absolutely. When this card shows up, it is letting you know that you need to find that freedom within. Freedom to be who you are meant to be. Freedom to step out, use your voice, and say, I am who I am, and I know who I am. That's what inner freedom is about. It's finding that freedom that comes from your inner power that is not bothered by the things that people say. And it also pushes the ego aside just a bit, and it allows you to be strong, even though on the surface it may appear to some that you're being weak because you're not fighting everybody, because you don't have to. You already have acceptance and you know that. So that's inner freedom. The second card is, it says Celtic torque. Now this, I want to read this to you as well. So I mentioned on the first card what the author says about you have to rewire. This card says, the Celtic torque was a symbol of royalty and high social standing. It was a twisted piece of metal, usually gold or silver, that was placed around the neck with the opening at the front. It would have been very difficult to remove. However, so it was symbolic of the weight of responsibility that comes with great power, which can never be shaken off or set aside. When you see the torque card in a reading, it is gently reminding you that you need to demonstrate your authority. It could be that you are being challenged in the workplace, or that your kids are running rings around you. Whatever it is, you are in a situation where you might feel powerless, but you are not. You have authority, you have power, and you should demonstrate it. Remember, though, that the most effective iron fist is the one that is clad in a velvet glove. So wield your authority wisely, fairly, and with compassion. Now is the time to be regal in your interaction with others. That's the inner freedom that you're looking for, that freedom to step into your role of who you are as a person. Embrace your power. With that power comes authority, and that's yours. You have the authority to think how you want, to do as you want, and to speak how you want. So that's how those two cards go together. A twisted little piece of metal, but it's about rewiring your thoughts, removing those attachments, those things that are blocking you, and rewire your brain and your thoughts to accept who you are as a person of power. And that was a very powerful group 2. For group number 3, this is a great example of how these two seemingly unrelated decks are working together to give you a unified message. Your first card is the calling of the soul. And this refers to your inner being, your soul. That's who you really are inside there, asking you to please embrace who you are, to pay attention to who you are. Now, in the present day, if you are feeling like you're just out of sync, you know what you believe and you know what you want to do, but you just can't seem to get there, or it just doesn't always turn out the way that you want, that you mean to do something good, but inevitably you do something else. And we all do that because we have we have an inherent human nature, that we have patterns that we follow and things we do. We also have the whole emotional chip installed. So that always changes stuff too. But your soul is reaching out to you to say, please remember who you are. Come back to the center of where things are, to get in alignment with what you know you want to be doing, because you've changed. You have changed, and your soul is now speaking even more loudly to you because it is calling the shots. It's giving you those ideas. Also, your soul, or you are the soul. You've always been the same soul, and you've traveled through all of your lives together. The body changes, but the soul remains the same. So your soul remembers everything that you've been through. It also knows where you're headed in this life. And so it's reaching out to you saying, pay more attention, start following your intuition, your internal navigation system, because that is the soul that's trying to direct and guide you, and just reminding you of it's there, and it wants you to pay more attention to that and allow yourself to follow the calling of the soul instead of the calling of the flesh or the external and the world that we live in. You can easily see that many people walking around pay no attention to their inner being. They are strictly focused on the material, the external, and those things because they believe that they get their identification through that. But your identification and who you are is your soul. And so that's a total shift. So in the world that we live in, when you are really in alignment and in sync with your inner being, it helps you to be the best possible person that you can be. And that also gives permission to others around, because they will see that and they will be inspired by that, hopefully. And it gives them permission to do the same thing, and maybe even ask you questions of, why are you so happy all the time? What drugs are you taking? And that gives you the opportunity to tell them either your prescription history, or you can tell them the path that you walk and why it's meaningful for you. And that can make a difference. The second card on this is the Druid. Now, this one, I want to read a little bit from the book on this one. And this one's Magic, Empowerment, and Enchantment. It says the Druid priest was a master magician, casting spells and working rituals and divinations for the greater good of the clan. He was a skilled herbalist and healer for his people. In addition, he would act as a confidant and counselor for those who wished to unburden their hearts. With this understanding of the elements and laws of nature, he could devise new spells with the things he had at hand, and would have been quite adept at improvising. When this card comes up in a spread, it is encouraging you to embrace your own magic and empower yourself. So it's asking you to step into your power and use it for the good of others and yourself. So the calling of the soul, embrace your power to be able to be that confidant for others, to answer those questions that people have, to guide and direct them for their highest purpose, and also to not be afraid as you embrace your power to do different things with it. Depending on what path you walk, if you do spell work, start doing spell work, tap into that, because you're doing it for the greater good. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as it doesn't involve dead chickens or dead puppies. That's just not right with Jesus right there, I'm telling you. But that aside, if you, no matter how you do your spell work, when you put the intention behind it, because your goal is to help other people and also help yourself, that is a beautiful thing. So the calling of the soul is embrace your power, embrace your magic, because you have it. It's there. So that was group number 3. Thank you, everyone, for following along tonight. I hope that as we went through this, whichever group you chose, and if you chose all 3 groups, they all went together perfectly. So if you didn't, go back and watch all 3, because you will see it was a unified message, all saying the same thing. Embrace your power. Let go of what is no longer needed, because it's just distracting you and taking your energy away from where it could be focused, which is on you and embracing your power and working on your own magic, being the best person you can possibly be, because it's going to help other people as well as yourself. So I hope as we went through that if my messages didn't quite resonate, perhaps as you looked at the cards, the message for you came through, because if you chose one group or all 3 groups, there was a reason. You were meant to hear something. So I hope that you received it. Thank you for following me on the metaphysical journey. And I hope that you just really have an amazing day on purpose, because you are amazing people. As I like to say all the time, you matter and you always make a difference. Never forget that or allow anyone to make you feel otherwise. Bye, everyone.